1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the address of America's most famous residence. The home where almost 45 presidents of the United States have lived.
There very well could be a presence in the White House of all those people that served before. It's a one of a kind.
You get such a sense of history when you're in the White House. You look at the library full of 2,500 volumes of very old, very meticulously restored books. You then see the paintings of all the presidents hanging on the wall.
Just think of all the traumas, tribulations that these presidents had, from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to Vietnam, Korean War, World War I, World War II. That draws a lot of energy into the building, and people that put out a lot of energy sometimes have a very good chance of coming back as a ghost because their energy is kind of embedded in the environment.
And this paranormal presence in the home of presidents appears to take many forms.
Andrew Jackson, Lincoln, Washington, they abound.
A lot of first ladies, a lot of former presidents at least saw somebody in the White House.
Jefferson's here. His violin could be heard playing.
Lady Bird Johnson, the wife of President Lyndon Johnson, also said she felt the chill of the rush of cold air, and there she felt the presence of Abraham Lincoln.
When Roosevelt died, his dog Fela perks up from the couch and starts running, looking in the air, trying to paw Roosevelt's spirit. The Obamas said they would hear strange sounds on the second floor.
There's too many people. The White House is haunted, no question about it.
Could it be possible? Could the presidents of the United States still visit their old residence?
It doesn't surprise me that there would be ghosts in the White House, you know, looking over their homes, making sure the next gal gets it right.
If you imagine you're the president of a country and you have to make everything perfect in the way you want it to be, you're never going to accomplish that. It's never going to happen. So, as they pass, it makes sense that they would return with that unfinished business.
Maybe it's a self-made purgatory.
And if you were to believe Thomas Edison's theory on the concept of a ghost, it could explain why these powerful figures still linger in the White House.
The concept of ghosts is this, and this is what Thomas Edison said. Human consciousness is made up of what he called life units. Life units are discorporate. They're in a body, they're out of a body, but according to quantum physics, they would stay together. They are quantumly entangled. So the spirit of a recently departed person, or a person who was very important, who had a major mission to accomplish, those life units will stay together. That's what Thomas Edison wrote in his journal. The presidents, just like other world leaders, were very important people in their times. And if they had a mission to fulfill, they will come back again and again and again to remind people of that mission.
Residents and guests of the White House have long reported supernatural sightings of those who came before them. Some of these sightings can be traced all the way back to the very inception of the White House in the late 1700s.
If you're going to go all the way back to the beginning, you've got to go back to David Burns. And David Burns actually owned the land that the White House sits on now. They would hear him and he would say, "I am Mr. Burns. I gave this land so that you can have this glorious house. Don't forget me. I am Mr. Burns."
And the first residents of the White House haven't gone anywhere either.
The very first person to live in the White House was John Adams and his wife Abigail Adams.
It's been reported that the spirit of Abigail Adams is indeed very active inside the White House.
Abigail has been seen going about her business as she did back 1802.
They see Abigail Adams coming down the stairway with her hands around the wash, getting ready to hang out the wash in the East Room to dry.
The next First Lady that does haunt, and she's a little bit more of a spitfire herself, is Dolly Madison. Dolly is responsible for the roses, that beautiful rose garden outside. She planted all of that, she groomed them, that is her pride and joy. Anytime someone ever decided to touch that rose garden, Miss Dolly walked herself right up there, and she would make shovels fly across the room. She would take dirt and throw it in the gardener's face.
Mrs. Wilson, who was the wife of Woodrow Wilson, decided one day that she was going to rearrange and redo the rose garden on the White House lawn. And all of a sudden, there was the image of Dolly Madison. And she looked at Mrs. Wilson and she said, "Don't you disturb my rose garden."
Another fiery spirit that still haunts the White House to this day is the 7th President of the United States.
Andrew Jackson, Old Hickory. He had lost a very contentious presidential election with John Quincy Adams, and he pretty much hated everybody who voted against him. He was very distraught, very angry at people. 4 years later, he ended up becoming president in 1828, but still had that pent-up anger. So when he died, a lot of people believe that he's still angry and been seen in the White House. In the early 1860s, Mary Todd Lincoln, the wife of Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, she claimed to have heard somebody stomping around in the Rose Room and cursing and swearing very loudly. She believed that was Andy Jackson. We know from historical documentation that he stayed, his bedchamber was the Rose Room.
It's claimed the most prevalent spirit is that of Abraham Lincoln.
When we talk about there being a ghost of Abraham Lincoln in the White House, you best believe it's true. He speaks to all of us.
After Willie Lincoln died, his youngest son died from typhus, Mary Todd Lincoln wouldn't leave the family quarters. She refused to leave the bedroom. She said, "I'm not coming down. It's this awful White House that killed my son. I don't want to be a part of it." He calls his spiritualist, his medium, his clairvoyant, Nettie Coburn, to come into the White House and hold a seance, who invokes the spirit of Willie Lincoln to say to his mother, Mary Todd Lincoln, "I'm fine. Everything is fine here. Please, join Father."
In 1865, Lincoln had a premonition of his own death.
He had a dream where he woke up in the dream and he heard a chorus of people just sobbing, moaning, and crying in the White House. So he puts on his bedrobe, goes down the stairs, and sees a flag-draped coffin in the East Room, 2 guards on either side, and a throng of people, sobbing, weeping, mournfully crying. He goes up to one of the guards and says, "Who has died in the White House?" The guard says, "The president. He was killed by an assassin's bullet." And then he wakes up.
3 days later, Lincoln was assassinated. Strange coincidence, or was there something more supernatural at play?
Even on the night Lincoln was shot, at Ford's Theater, he was supposed to be sitting in the same box with General Grant. But General Grant's wife, who was a spiritualist, said, "I have a bad feeling about this." In fact, she said, "I do not allow you to go sit in the presidential box. We're jumping on a train and we're going back to New York." And sure enough, they went back to New York. Lincoln, who had actually seen his own assassination in a dream, is shot.
Lincoln, it seems, has never left the White House.
There's actually a room in the White House called the Lincoln Room, and that Lincoln Room has been the source of many of the hauntings. Former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, she used that room as a study, and she said on many occasions she just felt that he was around.